Was Enoch Powell right in his Rivers of Blood speech, 1968? Was Enoch Powell right in his Rivers of Blood speech? I think it was 1968.
You all know the speech in reference to this is right. In 1968, Enoch Powell, who was a conservative politician, is generally agreed to have given a speech that made immigration sort of almost an undiscussable subject in Britain for decades. It was called the Rivers of Blood speech. It posited that Europe, that Britain specifically, well, he wasn't particularly talking about Europe, that Britain in particular was under massive risk from the immigration from the colonies that was going on. Several things about this. First of all, Powell was talking about race and was not talking about religion or ideology, and that's a very striking thing when you read back at that speech. And it's a striking thing because it's kept on shifting in Europe during the decades since. There was a moment in the 90s, for instance, and in the 2000s, when, having spoken about immigration in terms of race all these years, we suddenly started talking about it in terms of religion. It was suddenly about the Muslim community rather than the Moroccans and so on. There's a possibility that'll shift back, by the way. I already see some of that. I hear some of that across Europe, people talking about the race again rather than the religion. But that's one of the things. He was fixed on that particular issue. By the way, and there are all sorts of things Powell said which I don't agree with, and I think he was wrong on. But here's a very strange fact. Enoch Powell was slain by the British press, and his career was over. He was sacked from the shadow cabinet, despite, by the way, having the support for his speech of the majority of the British people. The majority of people polled, I think it was around 60 to 70%, said they agreed with Enoch Powell. Anyhow, one of the most striking things about it was that one of the biggest criticisms of Powell was a part of his speech where he talked about a woman who was the only white woman in a street somewhere in England where apparently everybody else was black. Now, at the time, this was one of the things that was picked over by journalists who said there is no such street, there is no such place. Now, I put this to you. In 2011, we had another census in the UK. That census, among other things, showed that people who ticked the box saying white British were now a minority in London. In 23 out of 33 London boroughs, people who ticked white British were a minority. Now, if Enoch Powell in 1968 had been writing his speech and decided, I'm going to use this speech to say that in 2011, white British people will be a minority in London, everybody would have said to him, what are you thinking about? You're a crazy man. You may have the eyes and ears of a prophet, but you're a crazy man. You've gone over. You've gone insane. Every single thing that even the doom mongers said has turned out to be wildly understated. It's the same in France. It's the same in every country. All the people, if you look back at all of the post-war decades, all of the people who your society and mine shut down as the prophets of doom turned out to have vastly understated the case. That is a very big problem.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.